use a model to multiply fractions. Think about this question during the lesson. There was 1/4 of a pan of lasagna left. Tom ate 1/3 of this amount. What fraction of a whole pan of lasagna did he eat? Find 1/3 of 1/4 to solve the problem. What math expression would you use for solving this problem? You need to find 1/3 times 1/4. Here is one way to solve the problem. Divide 1 whole into fourths. Divide 1/4 into 3 equal parts. Divide the other 1/4 into 3 equal parts. What does 1 part represent in the model? One part represents 1 out of 12 equal parts, or 1/3 of 1/4 of the whole model. 12 parts make one whole, so 1 part is 1/12. Here is another way to solve the problem. Shade one of the 3 rows yellow to represent 1/3. Shade one of the 4 columns red to represent 1/4. Which part of the model represents the product 1/3 times 1/4?
Select your answer.
The orange overlap shows the product. 1 out of 12 parts is shaded orange. Tom ate 1/12 of the pan of lasagna. Does the answer seem reasonable? Yes, the answer is reasonable because 1/3 is less than 1 and 1/4 is less than 1. So 1/3 times 1/4 should be less than 1.
I hope you liked working with these fractions.
Find 1/4 times 1/5 using the area model. Explain.
We have our area model, and we're going to look at how to find the area using it. Find the product using it. So we have 1/4. So 1/4, 1 of how many? That is 4. And 1/5 is 1 of 5. So I'm going to use 2 different colors. 1/4, I'm going to use the green. So 1 out of 4. So we have 1, I'm just going to put dots here, 2, 3, and 4. 4 rows this way. I'm going to shade in 1 of them. Then I'm going to change colors. I'll do red. We have 1 of 5. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns going up and down. So I'm going to shade in 1 of 5. I'm going to shade in the whole column. Okay. Now, like the example showed us, when you are looking for the product, you find where they overlap. So the place in which they overlap is here. And so that's the only overlap over 1 square. And then there's a total of 20 squares. And I know that you can either count all the squares individually or you can do 4 times 5. That gives you 20. So then the area of, the product of 1/4 times 1/5 is 1/20. Okay, and traditionally multiplying these fractions, you would multiply straight across, which still gives you the same answer.
Find 2/3 times 3/20 using a number line.
1/3 means 1 of 3 equal parts, so 1/3 of 3 over 20 is 1 over 20. That would be this first tick mark. 2/3 means 2 of 3 equal parts, so 2/3 of 3 over 20 is 2 times 120. And we have 120 here. 1/20th, and then 2/3 times 3/20 is equal to 6 over 20 is, or 2 over 20, or 1/10. That's 2 over 20 simplified. So that is how you use the number line.
Find 3/4 times 4/6 using the number line. Explain.
All right, so let's take a look at this example now. I'm going to explain it a little bit differently than the example from the book. So we're trying to find 3/4 of 4/6. So let's first find 4/6. Thankfully they have it there for us already on the number line. So there's our 4/6, and we want 3/4 times 4/6. And just as a little clue here, when you're multiplying fractions, the word you might see is the word of. You might sometimes see 3/4 of 4/6, and that just tells you to multiply. So I wanted to point that out at this point. Now back to the number line. We need to find 3/4 of this 4/6, so we need to separate from here to here into 4 parts. Thankfully for us, it is already in 4 parts. We have one space here, 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 and here. So that's 4 parts leading to that 4/6. Now 3 of those 4 parts, I'm just going to change color. 3 of the 4 parts gives us 1, 2, 3. That's 3 of those 4 parts. That gives us 3/6. So 3/4 times 4/6 is equal to 3/6. And to check and make sure we are correct, we're going to do the traditional multiplying without using the number line. So we're going to multiply straight across. 3 times 4 is 12. 4 times 6 is 24. And then we know to simplify fractions. So 12 and 24, you find a common factor. Common factor of both of them is 12. So if you divide both by 12, you're going to get 1 over 2, which is 1/2, and 3/6 is an equivalent of 1/2. So now we know that our answer is correct.
Find 7 1/2 times 2 3/4.
Estimate first. 7 1/2 times 2 3/4 is about 8 times 3. So the answer should be about 24. So one way, you can use an area model to find partial products, then add to find the final product. So we have first here 2 times 7, and let me read the side. You have 2 3/4 on the left side, and then you have 7 1/2 on the top side. And so you notice that the 7 is obviously larger than the 2, so that's why this side is a little bit longer than this side. So in this first box, you do 2 times 7. That's only multiplying our whole numbers. Then in this box, you're multiplying the 3/4 and the 7. And you get 21 over 4, or simplifying that is 5 1/4. Here we have 2 times 1/2. There's the whole number times the half here equals 1. And then in the last box, you have 3/4 times 1/2 is equal to 3/8. So that's how you would use the partial products. Now, once you find all of these, right, all the individual answers, then you now add them all together. And as you see here, you have your 14 plus 1 plus 5 1/4 plus 3/8 is equal to 20 and 5/8. And so 5 1/4 is renamed as 5 2/8 so that we have a common denominator when we're adding, because when you're adding fractions, they have to have the same denominator. So that's why the 5 1/4 is changed to 5 2/8. And so your final product is 20 5/8 using this area model here. Another way is to use an equation. So then we're just multiplying as you would traditionally. So we have 7 1/2 times 2 3/4. They're both mixed numbers. So we have to change them to improper fractions so that we may multiply them. So I'll show in the example to try it. But 7 1/2 becomes 15 over 2 times 11 over 4. And then you multiply straight across. 15 times 11 is 165. And then 2 times 4 is 8. And then you have to divide that improper fraction. And it becomes 20 5/8. So because 20 5/8 is close to the estimate of 24, the answer is reasonable. Now let's look at the try it, and I will break this one down further.
A clothing factory makes t-shirts. If each machine makes 3 1/3 t-shirts per hour, how many t-shirts does one machine make in 4 1/2 hours? Write and solve an equation.
So I'm going to write and solve an equation. So first, I'm going to write my equation. So we have each machine making 3 1/3 shirts per hour, and the question is how many can it make in 4 1/2 hours. So we're going to multiply the 4 1/2 hours. So I am going to first make the we need to change these mixed numbers into improper fractions. And I'm going to change colors. So to do so, we need to multiply our denominator times our whole number, add that product to the numerator. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. And then your denominator stays the same. And we need to do the same to 4 1/2. 2 times 4, and then plus 1. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. So 2 is the same. And then we multiply straight across. One thing I want to add, though, is how to simplify before multiplying straight across. So we have to look diagonally across. Let me choose a different color. I'm going to choose yellow. So to look diagonally across and see if there is a greatest common factor amongst the two numbers diagonally across from each other. So let's first look at 3 and 9. What is a common factor of 3 and 9? You have 3, you have 9, which is the greatest common factor. Well, it would have to be 3, because even though 3 is a factor of 9, and 9 is a factor of 3, the one they have in common that can be used to divide the two would have to be 3, because I can't take 9. That's a multiple of 3, not a factor. So we're going to divide the 9 by 3 and 3 by 3. So now that becomes 9 divided by 3 is 3, and then 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now we look across at the 10 and the 2. What is the greatest common factor of 10 and 2? It would be 2. 10 is a multiple of 2, but it's not a factor of 2. So 2 will then now be divided by 2, and then 10 divided by 2. Now 10 divided by 2 is 5, and then 2 divided by 2 is 1. So now when we multiply straight across, we have 15 over 1, which is the same as 15. So the answer to the question of how many shirts can one machine make in 4 1/2 hours, the answer would be 15 t-shirts.